I was really inspired to pursue a career in STEM when I took physics and art in high school. I think for physics, I was really into the idea of like a physical, tangible object being acted upon by forces. Like that really interested me. And then for art, I just love the creative side of it. And so I feel like structural design was kind of like a natural career choice for me. I think a lot of the times creativity isn't fully associated with STEM, but I think there's a lot of ways that it can be incorporated into this field. So I really like that balance between the two that I get in this role.
What inspired me to join STEM was I was also very mathematically inclined and I really liked science. With engineering, it's the innovation and the solutions you can come up with in different ways.
I loved math and science. Loved math and science as a kid, loved doing connects and Lego and buildings when I was young. And then in high school, really, really loved math. And I didn't know what to do with that. Figured I was just going to get a degree in math or science. And then it was a grade 11 teacher who really told me, I was like, well, what about engineering? I was like, what's engineering? And I'd never heard of it before. I didn't even know what an engineer was. Kind of opened up that door of applied science and what it meant. And I went for it and never looked back.
For me, it's kind of the same. My favorite video game as a kid was Sims, and I was always obsessed with building Legos. My favorite classes at school were math and physics. And then give me the combination, like it's basically an structural engineer. So that's how I got into this field.
I love building stuff. So whatever I can get my hands on, I did it. As I got older, I continued doing renovations at home, getting my hands dirty, which pushed me into kind of figuring out new ways to put things together, and what better way than in a building.
As all children, I looked up to my parents, and my dad's an engineer. My mom was a math teacher, so I really enjoyed math growing up. My brother was always talking about mechatronics, so I was considering that. And then later on, I kind of like took an AutoCAD course, which I enjoyed. Again, since we all grew up playing it, which was really nice with like building your own house and everything. So I like the idea of seeing what you build become reality. So that's why I chose structural engineering.
One of the challenges being in STEM industry, maybe more specifically in the construction industry, is just the kind of unconscious bias that there is that women are not good at math and science, or not the engineer. Specifically, first few times on the construction site, it was very much like, oh well, we'll have to talk to the engineer, we'll have to run it by him, and that kind of default to it must be a male engineer, it must be the male is in the office or at the meeting must be the engineer has been challenging and is difficult to deal with sometimes you're on site, especially as a younger engineer. But that was definitely a challenge.
I would agree. My challenge in STEM is being comfortable in the boys space and in the boys club, and I think there is still unfortunately a stigma that women are novelty on construction sites, and it is that it does still feel weird. I think that there's been a lot of advancements, but it is still weird to be like, oh, you're the girl on site, or oh, you are a girl engineer, and that classic female engineer as opposed to just engineer. That's a challenge of just being comfortable with that. With Co-Elevate, we have a bunch of females on staff in the technical field, so seeing that around you, it makes it more normalized that it's not a female technologist, it's a technologist. It's not a female engineer, it's just an engineer. So I think Co-Elevate normalizes that.
So I think some of the challenges I've experienced in past workplaces have really stemmed from when I'm the only female member of a team. I feel like this creates just a different culture where the onus has been on me to like change myself to fit in, and it's hard to explain if you haven't experienced it. But I think the difference with Co-Elevate is that we do have such diversity among our teams that I feel like I can come and be authentically myself, and that is fully accepted and encouraged here.
Yeah, for me, like the challenging thing is previous positions where you weren't encouraged to do things. Like there was no room for growth. Here, I was able to grow, get my BCIN. Bosses, encourage us to grow all together, and then just the support of everybody just makes it a lot better.
As a recent grad, I feel like I have not faced a lot of challenges in this field, which is a great sign that more and more women are being involved in STEM related careers and positions, which makes it easier for our generation to kind of like adapt and grow in this field. What's different about Co-Elevate is that I think we have a good balance between men and women in different positions, which makes it more welcoming. And I feel that as a woman, my word matters or my thoughts matter as much as my male coworkers.
As a woman, Being taken seriously as a professional has been a challenge for me, but this is absolutely not the case at Quality. Um, as a woman in engineering, I feel just as appreciated and respected as my male peers. And I think that is an amazing change in our industry that provides a safe and fair environment for everyone. And we are that change.
The advice I'd give to young girls interested in STEM is to never give up because the outcome of the work is rewarding.
Yeah, for girls that are interested in STEM, I think it is that there is so much out there that you don't know, and until you try things and experience things, you're not going to necessarily know if you like it or not. And I don't think you should ever be nervous about not trying something because you think, oh well, that's not for me, or that's for boys. Or so I think if something interests you, try it. And even if you don't end up down that exact path, so say you really like cars and you want to learn about cars, just because there's boys in that class or those boys that experience, try it, because you might end up being a mechanical engineer on a spaceship instead.
One advice I would give to girls interested in STEM engineering is that you will always be learning. You need to enjoy what you're doing. Don't let others choose your future for you. Don't let others choose what you want to do for the rest of your life. And make sure you research and see what doors this field that you're looking into will open for you. And make sure you talk to other people in the industry, shadow someone for a day. That way you can kind of see behind the scenes and how your day would look like in the future when you graduate. Because some things don't look like what they actually end up being. So it's nice to know the truth or what you're kind of going to become in the future instead of kind of just blindly going into it.
What I would tell girls who are interested in STEAM is just fight for what you're passionate about and believe in yourself that you are just as capable and strong as your role models. And one day you will become a role model for a little girl that wants to pursue a career in STEM.
My advice for any young girls interested in STEM would be to not get discouraged when you join the workforce, because I think a lot of great work has been done to get girls into school and get girls into STEM programs. And so the ratio, like the gender ratio in these instances, is a lot more equal than it is, just because that hasn't really worked its way through the workforce yet. And so it can be very jarring for young girls to begin their work and experience that really male dominated environment. And I would say, there are companies like Coelevate that are more gender balanced and where you will find strong female role models. So don't get discouraged if you don't find that right away. And B, you are changing the industry, and like 20 years down the line are going to make it so much better, and you're going to be a role model for someone else.
Yeah, I would say for girls interested in STEM is that idea, like there's a leaky pipeline. And when you look at a grade 5 class or a younger class, half the girls and half the boys are all interested in math. They like science, and they're confident enough to like say, I like math. And then once you start getting into high school, the numbers and the percentages of girls who are interested and excited about math and science goes down. And it's this weird sort of phenomenon that is happening, and there's social, pressures and norms and what's cool and what's expected of you. And it kind of, it just decreases, and it continues to go down and down and down. And when you look at university, when you look at graduates of engineering class, for instance, and then the number and percentage of engineers who get their stamp every year, like the women and the female number just continues to decrease. And I think it really starts at that young age of just feeling like it's okay to like math and science no matter who you are, to not be afraid to just like to try it, to fail, to keep going, get that confidence, because it really is a great, industry with lots of opportunities, like you
So
say,
many
from
opportunities.
spaceships to bridges,
The resources that would help aspiring young girls in STEM in high school, try to anything that helps you with design and drafting. Take a program to understand Revit, AutoCAD in high school, and that will give you kind of an upper hand when you get to college, university. To you have that feel of what is going to become of you. It allows you to know if it's something that you want to pursue.
Yeah, I would say there's lots of programs out there. I know one we were talking with the PEO was STEM by Steph. Is a program out there that just has activities, and it's a kind of a casual. You can sign up for individual programs or like a series of programs. There's virtual options, there's in-person options geared towards getting girls and young females excited about math and science and STEM. So just seek
In a
out
really
those
fun way,
opportunities
too.
in a fun way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just like seek out those opportunities. There's camps, there's all sorts of different things that really are focused on STEM. So if that's something that you're interested in, find those opportunities, find those activities that you can explore that
Yeah.
basically.
So, for young girls interested in STEM, I would recommend exploring high school classes because that was a great source of inspiration for me. And then there's an organization called Go Eng Girl, and they partner with most Canadian universities to host like engineering explore days for girls between the ages of grade 7 to grade 10. So I would look into that as well to see if one's happening in your area. Through a lot of major Canadian universities, there's industry nights. And these are just a great chance, if you're interested in STEM, to get out, meet people in the industry, hear their experiences, and just see if that's something that interests you.
So one misconception was that it's kind of hard to be a woman in civil engineering because it requires a lot of site work, a lot of like being outside and being in the field. But that wasn't the case because there are so many other opportunities that you can pursue as a designer or working in a consulting company where yes, you go to fields, but you're not required to be on the field all the time.
So a misconception that I had coming into the STEM field, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. There's lots of people that will say, oh, you know, a female in the STEM industry, that's going to be hard for you. And I think actually coming into the industry, it wasn't as bad as I maybe had imagined it was going to be. I think there is still a lot of work that needs to be done and biases that need to be overcome. But I think that there are a lot of allies and there are a lot of people that are working to change things. So I think there's hope.
Yeah, I would say sort of similar in that within the companies I've been with, I've been very lucky as far as my mentors and my, bosses and managers have been very supportive. I'd say there's been definitely some challenges, definitely some really difficult things that I've had to overcome and work through, but I've been very lucky in that same way of having the support of allies, both of other females, of coworkers and male, helped kind of support that and normalize that, like you say.
And the idea that it is still a challenge to be a woman in the STEM field, but it's not scary. You should never be deterred to not enter a STEM field because you are a woman.
Mhm.
Like you should be overcoming that. There are people that will support you. There is change. And there
Oh
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's lots of change. Like when I started, like women don't do that. You don't see a woman on like construction site stuff like that. And then, as I got into it, like, oh, there's more women than expected.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
going off to college and doing the architectural program, and you just see more and more.
Something that I was told was that it's harder for women to be on site in construction, which is absolutely not true once I got into the industry and saw multiple women who were doing amazing work and job at site.
I think like the biggest misconception or thing that I kind of was told before I was sort of started working was like you're not going to be taken seriously by like men and specifically like site people maybe because they're not like used to women in the field, and I haven't really found that to be the case. Yeah, like building those relationships with people on site has been like easy, and I haven't ever really run into instances where like people have been condescending or rude. So I think that has been a big difference than what I expected.
Something I'm really proud of is when I think we were chatting about women in the field, it came up that I had never had a female boss or a female supervisor. And a more junior colleague said, you never had a female lead? Like you never had a female boss? And I was like, no. And in that moment, I realized I was that for her. And I think it was one of those things where I felt really proud that I was going to be able to mentor her and be an inspiration for her. But also I think it showed that we are progressing where, our generation, we might not have had female mentors or female supervisors, but the next generation will.
One thing that really is inspiring for me is hearing the stories of the women who came before us in the industry. And so I think at a lot of the women in construction events and like seeking out those events where you're hearing from women who were the first people breaking ground for females in the industry and in the STEM industry, because it really shows how far we have come. Just hearing some of the challenges that they first faced, and then knowing and seeing the similarities of like, oh yeah, that's still a challenge. That's still something that we're working towards. But they're also talking to those women who were, one of 3 in their graduating engineering class. And then, here I am, one of, I think it was 25% female in the civil engineering at Queen's. So, we really have come a long way, but it's always inspiring to me to hear those stories.
that they made it. They
Yeah.
made it, and they're there.
Yeah.
And we can too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, I do see that where you do see a lot of people that have made it.
Mhm.
You do see like, you know, a lot of architects where like their buildings are like known all over the world.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I can do this. You kind of get yourself over that hump where it's like, oh, I can't do it. No, I can do this. You know, well, guys just doing their thing and
Yeah.
like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And trying
Yes, you
it.
can.
So, yes, you can.